What do you get when a London-raised American South African and a New York-raised Moroccan
meet on the interwebs and become instant soul sisters? One of them, an Ayurvedic practitioner and transformation coach, and the other, a Conspire breathwork coach and Reiki master teacher. Both obsessed with wellness, family, entrepreneurship, relationships, and the magic of human expansion and growth. You get a whole convo.
We truly believe that with an open heart, focused mind, and energy receptive to the possibilities, your wellness journey can guide you to a life that exceeds your wildest dreams.
Welcome to our podcast. We're Ella and Iman, and we are so happy you're here. Come vibe with us as we explore the wholeness of being through the lens of wellness.
Welcome to our whole convo with Ella and Iman.
Woohoo!
Yeah, where today we are getting into silent judgment, also known as the action killer.
Ooh.
Yeah, now, Iman, this idea came to me when I caught myself censoring what I thought I was allowed to do, what I could do, what I was supposed to do, based on the voices I heard, not those kind of voices, in my head from the past, things that significant people in my family had said to me. Maybe it was friendships, relationships, and some of them have amalgamated into a theme about what I'm allowed to do. And they were playing in my head as I was censoring, okay, I can't do it this way because I've been told I'm not good enough to speak out in this way. I'm not allowed to take this action. I can't put myself out there in a way that I can be seen because who do I think I am to be making statements like this, to be taking the stage as though I know something? Get back in your box. It was so fascinating because we talk about personal development, we talk about working on that inner game and that inner understanding. So this is not a new revelation to me, but it was so interesting about how ingrained it was in the split second about what I'm allowed to do and what I think I can and can't do. So when I'm consciously there, focusing, trying to do things, making a plan of action, and I've got my eyes on what I'm trying to create, I'm making decisions about what I'm trying to do. I believe that's coming from inside, or that's coming from my desire to create something or my desire to move forward in my life. And noticing that there can be so many things running interference, even in those conscious moments, was a beautiful reminder about how important it is to stay connected with our inner experience and how important it is to keep going there, to keep listening, to keep paying attention to the little things that we have going on. I want to ask you, Iman, how does this idea sit with you in terms of the experiences that you have personally and maybe some of the things that you see in behaviors with the people you work with?
Wow. First of all, the way you are sharing this concept is really resonating with me, and I'm actually really glad that you brought this up and that we're discussing this because I think it is such a powerful topic, an important thing to speak about because like you said, this is not a new concept. This is not a new phenomenon of a human, truth or human behavior. I would doubt if anyone that has a pulse, any human being has never experienced this kind of feeling and this kind of experience that you speak of. But I think what often happens is that we think just because we are at a point in our life where maybe we've seen some kind of advancement or some kind of a success or achievement, or we're happy beings, we're happy with ourselves,
Mm.
that it doesn't exist anymore. Like that's it.
I'm done.
I'm done. I'm never gonna experience that again. It's not a thing for me anymore. I think that's where I find it the most interesting and why it's so powerful to speak of, because I think in every little incremental moment of our life that
Mm.
we're making a choice or we're doing something or we want to create something, which is
Mm-hmm.
literally what we're here to do is creation on any level. No matter what you want to create or do in your life, it is literally creation. So at any moment in our life, we can have this thought of, why would I be able to do that? How am I going to be able to do that? I don't think I'm able to do that. And those thoughts, like you said, often come from this like amalgamation, as you put it, from decades or years or however long,
Lifetimes.
lifetimes, exactly, lifetimes of this conditioning and this molding
Mm.
we were never, we never authorized. We never authorized this transaction. Sorry, not me. That was fraudulent activity. Okay. And it's these people or things that have, molded us into thinking these things. And then it's like, so how do we release that? How do we continue to do that? Because like I said, I don't think it just stops and ends. I think our strength and our power to change the narrative in that second,
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, is what really dictates what the result will be, what the next indicated step should be. And so for me, I have felt these moments so many times in my lifetime and still from time to time do. But what has helped me now, just from my personal experience and getting through it, as we always talk about, or getting to the next step that actually is going to enable me to get to where I want, is to get so quiet,
Mm.
is to get so silent, because it's so hard to freaking hear my own voice sometimes in those thoughts. Because I'm telling you, for me, 9 times out of 10, it is not me. But that thought, it is not me. It is some kind of past trauma from just like how I never wanted to be a disappointment to my parents, or I had a certain event happen and it didn't go well. And so I think, oh, well, remember that time that didn't go so well? It's just like this, a whole bunch of BS stories that aren't real and that aren't true taking over in that moment. And so for me, what helps me the most is really to quiet down, bring in the silence, bring in the solitude, and then start asking, is that really me? Is that my truth? And oftentimes it's not. It's not actually me. Because to be honest with you, I am a very capable, confident person. I have too many receipts. I have too many.
Yes, girl.
I have too many receipts. And sometimes we need to remind ourselves. And then it also helps when we have an incredible community and support system and people that also add on to that reminder, also remind us. And I know I play that role for a lot of people, and I love being the reminder for my loved ones on how epic and iconic they are. And I am also grateful that I have that in my life. But sometimes it's actually up to us in the moment. Right in that moment, it's up to us to remind ourselves, no, you're you're it. You are the one. You're the one that's capable and you got this. So, yeah, I guess it's like a combination of like more silence and then coming back to my own truth and really asking, like, is that thought mine? Is that
Mm.
really mine? And most of the time it's like, yeah, no, that's not mine. That's not mine. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Okay. Regroup, regroup, girl.
I love that you bring that silence focus and being with yourself to reveal the truth. Because if I may be as so bold as to say, we can, every single one of us human beings, make this assumption. We are more than we can comprehend.
Mm,
Everything that we are here to experience, to bring into creation, to share with the world, comes from that higher expression where there is nothing to worry about, there is nothing to fear, there is nothing to move away from, there is nothing to turn away from in the sense of how we are inspired to bring it forward.
mm,
That's the truth of our essence as human beings. And anything else is an interruption and also an invitation to come back to that remembering. So if I bring it into the perspective of our breathing, particularly when it comes to judgment, those words that come from authority figures, and it's not necessarily, a lot of the times it is our parents, because they are if we are brought up by our parents and they are in close proximity to us, or it's the authority figures that take that place.
mm,
It could be someone in a school setting. So much of that careless judgment, that careless throwaway. I mean, I don't know. I was going to say, I hope to think it's different now, but my closest connection is seeing my kids and how teachers spoke about and communicated with them. And I think there's a lot of work that needs to happen around the language that we share from an authority position to our young people, to our children, because the way that it shapes how we see ourselves, the things that we think we're capable of, what we think is possible for ourselves, is not an in the moment thing. It feeds into that voice, that interruption. It's like static. That's the way I think
yes.
about it.
It's noise. It's
Yeah.
noise.
So we have that clear signal when we're tapped in, when we're tuned in, when we're grounded in our bodies, embodied, and then that static comes in. So in our breath, it looks like our breathing is shut down, particularly around the upper part of our breathing mechanism, because it's almost like a weight is being put onto opening our hearts and being connected with our hearts and speaking and living from that place.
Mm,
And when that life force isn't moving there, and we are caught in the web of that weight and the noise and the words repeated over and over, that's not the vibe, that's not the place to be in. and
yeah.
and looking at it from an energy perspective as well, because the thing that really got me into catching myself in the moment with that interruption and that interference was my energy felt so constricted, it felt so shut
Mhm.
down
Yes.
by the thought of not taking the action that felt most expansive. So being able to notice that as a shortcut was like, oh, this is what's happening here. And let me listen to what those voices are telling us. And it's that repetition, because it may be that those authority figures kept repeating a certain mantra or a certain style of what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do and how you're allowed to express yourself. And it's also that realization that we start to adopt that protection because we want to keep ourselves safe. And it just, if we can have compassion for that idea that even though we start to believe it as our truth, the reason that that happened in the first place is because our minds were saying, oh, I love you. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. I want you
Right.
to feel protected. I want you to feel taken care of. So let's avoid putting ourselves in that dangerous situation again. So much compassion for the reason that those protections and that chatter develops in the first place. And we have to give ourselves the opportunity to be that expanded version, to be that beautiful,
Delicious?
delicious, inspirational, expanded, joyful, all of the things that I think it's hard for me to put it into words because it's
Yeah,
so
because
much more.
it's not just one word. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I totally feel that, Ella, and I couldn't agree more. And I do want to add a couple of things because you said so many important things and you hit on so many points. You said something about having the compassion and the understanding of where it's coming from, that thought. It's just like our mind kind of saying, you're okay, you're going to be okay, I got you. I don't think this is the right protection, right? But then I wanted to also bring up the aspect of when those, let's say, let's call them disempowering thoughts or those silent judgmental thoughts creep in, if they have come over time from our conditioning from, let's say, parents or any other person, having compassion of where that came from. Because for me personally, and I'm not, and again, I want to just respect and honor the people who have gone through life and gone through their stories in a way where the other or the others were intentionally trying to hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take away from that because I know many people have lived horrible, horrible experiences in which they have had people, whether authority figures or not, you know, be cruel and be intentionally toxic and dangerous to
Mm-hmm.
them. I am not speaking of that, and I am so aware of that. What I'm saying is in the times from my personal experience where I felt a judgmental thought or I felt a disempowering thought or even a negative, uninspiring way of being, it
Mm-hmm.
came from someone trying to protect me, them thinking a certain way that is not in alignment with my authentic way of thinking. So let's just bring up something very simple like entrepreneurship. We're both entrepreneurs. I've, always had a capacity and kind of a pull towards entrepreneurship. It does take a lot to have that kind of emotional bandwidth to be an entrepreneur. I personally think the example of an entrepreneur is not in alignment with a person who thinks that is a risky thing to do, or someone who believes that the safest and most sound option for a being in this lifetime is to have a job and to do this way and to make income this way. Someone who thinks that is not a cool person. They're not a toxic person. They're not a negative person. However, because that belief is so real for them and so
Mm-hmm.
ingrained in their way of thinking, if they feel the need to protect and control the way someone else behaves and someone else wants to do things, they will blurt out words. They will say things. They will try to control the situation in such a disempowering way. And if they do it often enough and frequently enough, you will start to feel overwhelmed. Those thoughts are all you can think about. Those judgments are all you can think about. And that's why for me, I mentioned the silence thing, because again, having compassion to think, oh, that person is just worried. They're
Mm-hmm.
just worried that I'm going to be in trouble or I'm not financially capable. And to be honest with you, sometimes we're not. As entrepreneurs, sometimes it looks financially scary. It looks crazy. And for others, they can't handle that. They can't take that. They can't hold that,
Mm-hmm.
but someone else can. And so I think that contradiction, that contrast often pulls people to feel like they need to fix it or they need to protect you when we need to be the intelligent person, say, you know what? I don't need to listen to that. I actually am choosing not to listen to that. But at the same time, I love that for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they care about me. I see it. And you can either address it with them or not, whatever your nervous system can handle. Because that's another thing too. Like that judgment is for us to decide. Do we want to address it? Do we want to hold it? Or do we want to just acknowledge it and say, okay, I'm going to move this way?
Mm. Absolutely. And within that, it comes back to that idea of cultivating our inner work so we can even have the space and the emotional understanding to go beyond how we're affected and to see it through that other person's eyes. And that's a whole convo in itself.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
really, really is. And it's a beautiful opportunity for us to make that connection when we are able to see that truth and hold that compassion for another person in an maybe unexpected way that can deepen our relationships and it can deepen our understanding of something that on face value, if we're still caught up in that judgment and we're still caught up in the silence of how our behavior is altered, we're here. There's nowhere to move. But the more we can see it, maybe we'll start to rotate. Maybe we'll start to see it from a different perspective. And maybe that different perspective then begins to open up the possibilities, and potential becomes accessed that isn't there when we're all tied up, caught up, and bound by it. And I think my invitation to people who are connecting in with this particular convo is to look at places perhaps in their lives, things that they always do because it's always been done as a thought. So I don't know if I've mentioned this to you. There was this woman who she was making some food for her family and they were having a ham. I don't know what
Over
it
there in
was.
the Shires or where?
No, no, no. This is this
Oh,
is
this is a
this is a
story. This is like a
story.
fable. Okay.
Yes, and she was making this ham, and as she was preparing it, she cut off one side, the other side, put it into the dish. So I don't know how much she cut off either side of the ham, but she cut off. I don't know why it's ham. It could be any meat of your choice, okay, or not meat, whatever, guys. And she's put it in the oven, made the meal. It's fantastic. When it comes to the time to eat this food, someone at the table says, "Oh my gosh, this looks amazing. I saw you preparing it. Why did you cut off both ends of this meat?" And she says, "Well, that's the way my mother's always done it." "Why has your mother done it that way?" "I don't know. I'm going to ask her." So she asks her mother, and her mother says, "Because my mother's always done it that way." And
Right.
fortunately, the grandma's still alive. So they ask the grandma, "Why have you always done it that way?" "Because my mum gave me this baking tray and I couldn't fit the whole thing in it." So they're just doing it because their mum did it. And this is the information that's been passed down and passed down without realizing that there was an initial reason it happened. So if we go back to your compassion for the person, I'm scared, and this is why I'm giving you this limiting experience for you because I want you to be safe and I want you to do things a certain way. But if we don't question it, if we
Right.
don't look into it, if we don't explore it for ourselves and see how well it sits with us, then we could be cutting the ends off that ham for no reason.
And our tray can be massive. We can
So
have
big.
tray. And that's what I meant by like the emotional capacity that I can
Exactly.
hold for something that may be challenging, like quote unquote entrepreneurship, that for someone else seems so scary. And actually, what they don't want to do, which is also valid, but our trays are different sizes.
Different sizes, and that can be the context of our generation just does things differently because the world is a different place. So what felt safe and correct for you one generation back, two generations back, three generations back doesn't operate the same. It doesn't filter down. So the words that I'm offering you to help you, what I think is helping you is having the opposite effect. So stay
Right.
curious, people. Stay curious.
Just quickly before we end this convo, because this is a whole convo that I'm really enjoying right now. That judgment, Ella, that so you did you call it silent judgment?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's in our heads, right? It's in our mind.
Because it's so unconscious.
Right.
It's so there we don't even usually recognize it straight away until we pay attention.
And you said that is also known as the killer of
A-
action.
Action killer,
Yeah,
yeah.
the action killer. So here's what I want to contemplate to wrap this up. When we are deciding to make a bold move or a choice in our life, right? That is ours. Like it has been connected to us, to our truth, to our authenticity, to our desire of creating it, right? Let's say that requires something of us that we need to now at this moment take a step towards, right? When and how do we situate ourselves in a way where that silent judgment is not going to kill that action?
One of my favorite things is like when you said, is it true? That's a great question
Mm,
to ask ourselves. Anything that presents a roadblock, a thought, a desire to shut down, a freezing, because a freezing sensation is that I'm paralyzed, I can't move. And that's symptomatic of a deeper manifestation of that experience. But anything that presents itself like that is asking yourself the question, is this true?
mm,
Is this true? Because we have to remember that even when we have the courage, we have the desire, and that feels louder than the judgment that's there, it doesn't mean that it's going to be completely
easy.
effortless.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't mean that we won't feel tested. It doesn't feel mean that it won't feel uncomfortable physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because growing comes with that breaking through, that growing pains, that gestation. I mean, there's a you know, we've hit on this in the introduction to the farm episode. It's that reminder that the humanity isn't the absence of feeling challenging, difficult things.
Mm.
It's our power to acknowledge them and choose ourselves anyway.
I love that so much.
And I would also add, this is where working with our breath becomes a practical tool in those moments, because what will be happening is a constriction of our breathing in some way, whether we're not fully grounded because our energy is all up here, or
Yeah.
whether the breath is short and shallow in our chest. So it's taking stock of where that life force is and slowing it down, bringing it lower into the body, becoming aware of the soles of our feet. This offers us an opportunity to be more present and to connect in with our power in that moment and make a different decision
Oh,
and choose something, choose another way, a way
yeah.
where we feel more honored, and then expand that through the connection of our energy to that moment and to what we're experiencing, because it felt important to say that because I mentioned the breath earlier, and the idea of these tools sometimes feel separate from
Yes.
practical application in life. But when we tap into them and remember that that is the essence of our living, our breath, our energy, utilizing it in those practical, grounded ways helps us move through and helps us to make change in the moment.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed 1,000%, Ella. I love it.
Me too, girl. I've loved this whole convo.
Me
And it's
too.
there's so many things that are spinning in different directions from me, as I imagine they are for you. But we're going to leave it here for today.
I really am excited to hear from our listeners and their thoughts on how they actually, handle and manage those kind of thoughts and silent judgments that come up in their life when they're, ready to take action or thinking of doing something, and how those things, you know, put things to a halt sometimes, and how they manage. We'd love to hear from you all. Before we leave you all on this episode, you know what time it is. It is our favorite time of the month. We are celebrating ourselves, our moment, whenever it was in the past, our younger selves, our slightly recent selves, our very itty bitty tiny selves, whatever self you want to celebrate. We're taking it a little bit back and doing our monthly tradition of celebration. So this August, Ella, what do you want to celebrate?
Okay, so I am celebrating the version of me, let's say about 17, 18 years ago, when I made a decision that it was going to stop. The generational unconscious things that were being passed down, the reactivity, the unconscious spaces of not thinking and feeling regret afterwards.
Mm,
So I had always been I guess, someone who processes, who looks at things. So when I was growing up, when things didn't feel right in certain challenging relationships that I had with authority figures in my life, I always looked over those things, but felt quite powerless because I was young and they were older in relation to me. And then about 17 years ago, so I had my kids. Nyla was about three, and it just came to me just like one day I'd had enough of seeing myself acting in a certain way, noticing that acting, but feeling like I couldn't stop it in the moment. So I made a decision, a conscious decision, even though I knew I wasn't happy about it for a while, that it was going to stop. So I was going to do whatever I needed to do to work on myself, to heal my past, to be conscious, to start creating much more deliberately in my life, because I didn't want that to be my legacy to my girls. So I'm celebrating that decision.
Oh,
I'm celebrating that moment in time. I'm celebrating everything that followed from taking that decision.
that's huge. That's a huge celebration. It sounds to me like it was the moment you made that big decision,
Mm-hmm.
big decision to connect to your higher self and take control, take the power back.
Take ownership. Control, that's a whole convo.
Oh,
Take
that is a
ownership.
whole,
Yeah,
that's
that's a
a
whole convo.
whole combo.
But absolutely. And I feel because August is my birthday month, let's make it a big one.
Yes. Love that. I celebrate you, Queen. Love that celebration so much.
Thank you. And Iman, how about you?
I was thinking this morning actually about my little 14-year-old self. And I want to celebrate my first ever job. I want to give a
Mm.
round of applause for my teenage Iman, who was just like so excited that she can legally make some money in this country. And so the legal age to work is 14 in New York State anyway. And I got a lifeguarding job. So I was a
Yay!
lifeguard at a condominium, so it was an indoor pool. And when I tell you, Ella, it was like the coolest job. I was so happy. I would be wearing my little bathing suit and my lifeguard t-shirt and shorts over it and literally doing my homework on top of the table when there was no one swimming, when there was no one in the water, okay? Of course. But I just want to celebrate that. You know, I walked into the office, I did my first interview. Like, can you imagine at 14 years old, you're just sitting.
Sweet Iman.
So I want to celebrate that. And I want to celebrate all our listeners here that are celebrating theirs. Please share in the comments. Please reach out to us and tell us what you are celebrating this month with us.
Absolutely. And celebrating baby Iman in her first steps into financial success, financial ownership. Love that. I'm going to see if I can make the balloons come up. Are they going to do it? No. It's just like when I least expect it.
Oh, there
Hey!
they are. The party.
Woo!
Celebrate
Celebrating
us.
us. Beautiful.
Yay, and we're out.
We are. Until next time.
That is a wrap on this week's convo. We had a blast talking to you.
Thank you for sharing your time, hearts, and minds with us.
We hope this episode left you thinking, feeling, and maybe even breathing a little deeper. If it moved something in you, please share it, text it to a friend, or just sit with it.
Remember, the power of change can start with the simplest convo.
And if you have any comments or thoughts you'd like to share with us, please feel free to do so. We'd love to connect with you. Don't forget to subscribe to our show so you never miss a moment of the magic. And if you're curious about any of our services and offerings, check out the show notes for all the links and goodies. We're so grateful you're on this journey with us. Until next time,
Stay rooted, stay whole.